Definite descriptions are of the so-and-so variety. That is, they uniquely single out a singular or definite person, place, or thing. For example, consider the proposition, the author of the Divine Comedy is Italian. We have here a definite description. It's referring to Dante, and he's a particular person, and in fact he is the author of the Divine Comedy. Or for example, consider this proposition. The capital of Arizona is a big city. It's a definite description. Implicitly, it's referencing the city of Phoenix. But interestingly, it turns out the correct interpretation of definite descriptions has been quite controversial in philosophical logic. If you pick up your standard logic textbook, you'll probably get something like this as an example. The present king of France is bald. And in fact, the logician and philosopher Bertrand Russell gives this example. But the question is, if we analyze this proposition, the present king of France is bald, we might ask the question, is this proposition true or is it false? Now, most textbooks follow Bertrand Russell's answer. So according to him, a proposition with a definite description asserts three things. First, existence. So the thing being referenced must exist. Two, it asserts that there's only one such person or place or thing. And three, it has the attributes that are attributed to it. So according to this standard, it's pretty clear that there is no existence of this present king of France. He does not exist, so we must say this proposition, in fact, is false. And intuitively, that seems like a very reasonable and very correct answer. How could such a proposition be true? As a whole, it must be false because it asserts a falsity about some present king. Now, Russell's analysis, by the way, seems better than upholding a naive application of the law of excluded middle. Because, at least on a naive interpretation of it, it might seem that if we say the present king of France is bald is false, would we then have to say the present king of France isn't bald is true? Well, based on at least one naive interpretation of the law of excluded middle, it would seem that it would imply that. But in fact, are not both false? Because there is no such king. So if we're going to say the present king of France is bald, that is false. But if we're going to say the present king of France isn't bald, that also is false. But regardless of the correct details of that, how can we translate these types of propositions into predicate logic? So if we have the following, so we have the author of the Divine Comedy is Italian. So we're going to have to say that there is someone who is the author of the Divine Comedy, and if anyone is the author of the Divine Comedy, then that person is identical to the first, and that first person is Italian. And that translation implicitly affirms Bertrand Russell's analysis, because first it asserts the existence of some author, at least in the past, although I suppose this is another complication. How do we deal with the past tense? And that's actually another issue in philosophy. in terms of logic. So I'm not exactly sure how we should deal with that necessarily, but here, for our purposes, we're thinking of this person as existing, at least in the past. Second, this proposition, when we translate it into predicate logic, it does assert that there's only one such person with the use of logical identity. And third, it's asserting attributes to this person, and we're saying that these attributes are correct, such that these three criteria are met and we have a true proposition. So we have an existential proposition. We're going to say that there exists an X such that A is the author of the Divine Comedy, so author, Divine Comedy, and for all Y, if Y is the author of the Divine Comedy, then Y is identical to X, and X is Italian. So again, there exists an X such that X is the author of the Divine Comedy, and for all Y, if Y is the author of the Divine Comedy, then Y is equal to X, and X is Italian. There is someone who is the author of the Divine Comedy, and if anyone is the author of the Divine Comedy, then that person is identical to the first, and that first person is Italian. This time, let's translate the following. The author of the Divine Comedy is Dante. So this time we'll specify who the person is specifically. So the same idea, we'll say that there exists an X such that X is the author of the Divine Comedy, and for all Y, if Y is the author of the Divine Comedy, then Y is identical to X, and X is identical to Dante. We'll say Dante is an N for name. In other words, there is someone who is the author of the Divine Comedy, and if anyone is the author of the Divine Comedy, then that person is identical to the first, and this person is identical to Dante. So we have a good translation, and it really is a translation. It's another language, if you will. That's what predicate logic is. But it allows us to analyze certain statements with a certain precision. So this is an introduction to definite descriptions in predicate logic. I'm the amateur logician. I hope this video has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I enjoy making these videos. If you find them of any value, if you learn anything from them, please visit my website at amateurlogician.com. Consider supporting my work and signing up, for example, to my newsletter there at amateurlogician.com. Thank you so much.